Welcome to this lesson on the coordinate plane part 3. Please be sure you have these notes in front of you so that we can begin our lesson. The I can statement for this lesson says I can identify the opposite location of an ordered pair on a coordinate plane. So let's start discussing some of the vocabulary words that we should be familiar with. The x-axis is the horizontal number line. So looking at the coordinate plane to the right, we know that this axis is the x-axis because it is a horizontal number line. The next vocabulary word is the y-axis, which is the vertical number line. And the vertical number line, which is the y-axis, is the one that goes up and down. So the one that I'm highlighting in blue, that is the y-axis. The coordinate plane is formed when the x-axis intersects the y-axis. So if you look at our diagram, the blue line intersects the red line, and the coordinate plane is formed. The next vocabulary word is quadrant, and the axes separate the coordinate plane into 4 separate regions, which is known as the quadrants. So this is quadrant number 1 right here, and we're going to count counterclockwise. So this is quadrant number 2, quadrant number 3, and quadrant number 4. Ordered pair is the next vocabulary word. An ordered pair is the location on the coordinate plane. Whenever you work with the ordered pairs, make sure to always start on the x-axis first, and then the y-axis should follow second. Don't flip them. X should come first, so y should come second. The origin is where the x and the y-axis intersect. So on our little coordinate plane here, the origin would be this black dot right here. And the ordered pair for the origin would be 0, 0. The last vocabulary word is to reflect, and reflect is the mirror image. This is the vocabulary word that this video will definitely talk about, so please make sure you understand that reflection basically means the mirror image. So for example 1, they're asking us to reflect point A across the y-axis. So using my highlighter, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and highlight the y-axis, which is the one that goes up and down, because this is the mirror, or this is the reflection line. Now the ordered pair for letter A would be 1 and 1/2, comma 1 and 1/2. So I want to know what the reflection point is across the y-axis. I know that point A is about 3 units away from the y-axis. So I'm going to reflect on the other side. So here's 1 unit, here's the second unit, there's the third unit, and my point will go right here. So the blue dot that I just drew will be the reflection of point A along the y-axis. Let's go ahead and take a look at the ordered pairs for that. The ordered pair would be, if I start at 0, 0, I'm going to go over on my x-axis to -1 and 1/2. Then I'm going to go up to +1 and 1/2. Now let's go ahead and take some time to compare the original point with the reflection point. The reflection point was -1 and 1/2, comma 1 and 1/2. Take note that we reflected across the y-axis. If you notice, the y ordered pairs stayed the same. The x ordered pairs became the opposite, because the opposite of 1 and 1/2 is -1 and 1/2. For example 2, they're asking us to reflect point B across the x-axis. So I'm going to take a highlighter, and I'm going to highlight the x-axis, which is the one that goes from left to right, because that would be my reflection line. So this problem is asking us to reflect point B along the yellow line. I know that the ordered pair for point B is positive 0.5, comma, negative 0.3. 75. So I'm going to do this example a little differently. I know that I'm going to reflect across the x-axis, which means that the ordered pair for the x should stay the same. So the x would continue to be 0.5. However, the y-coordinate becomes the opposite. So the opposite of negative 0.75 will be positive 0.75. So I've just created the reflection coordinate for point B. Now if I go ahead and graph 0.5, here's my at 0, 0. I'm going to move over to 0.5 on my x-axis, and then I'm going to go up to 0.75, which is about not past 1, but a little before 1. So that is the reflection point for point B. Example 3 is asking us to reflect point C across the y-axis. So I'm going to take my highlighter, and I'm going to highlight the y-axis, which is the one that goes up and down. So this is my reflection line right here. And I know that the ordered pairs for point C is negative 2, comma, negative 1.25. So I want to reflect across the y-axis. So the way that I want to do this is I know that it's going to be someplace in quadrant number 4 because it has to reflect across the y-axis. So since it's going to reflect across the y-axis, I know that the y-coordinate should stay the same. So the y-coordinate in the original is negative 1.25, so it's going to stay as negative 1.25. And once again, the reason why it's staying negative 1.25 is because we're reflecting across the y-axis, so this y has to stay the same. Now what I want to do is I want to take the opposite of the x-coordinate. The opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So we're going to place positive 2 in our x-coordinate. Let's take some time to go ahead and graph that. So on our x-axis, we're going to start at 0, 0, and we're going to move over to positive 2, which is right here. Then it's going to tell me to go down negative 1.25, which is about right here. So this new point that I plotted on the coordinate plane is the reflection point of point C. And the ordered pairs of that is 2, comma, negative 1.25. So pause the video, complete the got it problems, and then play it back for some feedback. Now that you had some time to work on these problems, let's take a look at the answer for letter A. It says to reflect point B across the y-axis. So the ordered pair for that would be negative 0.5, comma, negative 0.75. The reflection point for point D across the x-axis would be negative 0.75, comma, negative 1.25. So example 4 is asking us to graph the ordered pairs 1.5, comma, 4, and then reflect across the y-axis. So let's go ahead and graph first. I'm going to start at 0, 0, and I'm going to start on my x-axis, and I'm going to go over to 1.5. So here's 1.5 right here. Now I'm going to climb up to 4. So my dot, or my point, should go right here. Now remember, the ordered pair for that was 1.5, comma, 4. I want to reflect across the y-axis. So I'm going to get a highlighter, and my y-axis is the one that goes up and down, so this is the reflection line right here. Now since I'm reflecting across the y-axis, I know that on my ordered pairs, my y-coordinate is going to stay the same. So it was 4 in the original point, so it's going to stay 4 in the new point for the y-coordinate. And once again, the reason why for that is because we reflected across the y-axis. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the opposite of the x-coordinate. The opposite of 1.5 would be negative 1.5. So if I go ahead and graph this ordered pair, I'm going to start at 0, 0, and I'm going to go to the left, which is negative 1.5, about someplace right here. Now I'm going to climb up to 4. That is the reflection point of 1.5 comma 4. It's right here. And the ordered pair is right here. Negative 1.5 comma 4. Okay, so for example 5, they're asking us to graph the ordered pairs negative 2 comma negative 2.3 and reflect across the x-axis. So let's go ahead and graph our first point. It's going to start at the 0, 0 mark. And then I'm going to move on the left side of my 0, which is negative 2. Then I'm going to jump down to negative 2.3. So here's negative 2, so negative 2.3 would probably be about right here. Okay? Since we are reflecting across the x-axis, I'm going to go ahead and use the highlighter and draw a line or highlight the x-axis right here, because that becomes my reflection point. So let's go ahead and rewrite my ordered pairs for that again. The ordered pair was negative 2, comma, negative 2.3. Alright, so if I want to reflect, I know that I'm reflecting across the x-axis. That means that the x-coordinate needs to stay the same. So if it was negative 2 in the original point, then it's going to stay at negative 2. Once again, since it's reflecting over the x-axis, the x-coordinate should stay the same. Then what I want to do is I want to take the opposite of the y-coordinate. And the opposite of the y-coordinate would be positive 2.3. So if I was to sit here and graph my new reflection point, my new reflection point would be negative 2, which is on my x-axis right here. Now I'm going to jump up 2.3 spaces, which is right here. So this new spot is the reflection point, which is located in quadrant 2. Example 6 is asking us to graph the ordered pair, which is negative 1.7 comma 1.5. Then we need to reflect across the x-axis. First thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and graph. So I know that negative 1.7 is going to be on the left-hand side of my x-axis of 0. Negative 1.7 is probably about someplace right here. Then I'm going to go down. Actually, no, I'm going to go up 1.5. So here's 1. I'm going to go up halfway mark. Okay. So now I'm going to use a highlighter so that I can highlight the x-axis, because that is my reflection line. So here's the reflection line. And let me go ahead and write the ordered pair again. So the ordered pair for this line, or this dot, would be negative 1.7 comma 1.5. So now I'm going to reflect this point across the x-axis. So if I start my ordered pair and I'm reflecting across the x-axis, I know that the x-coordinate needs to stay the same. So negative 1.7 is going to stay negative 1.7. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the opposite of positive 1.5, which becomes negative 1.5. Now let's go ahead and graph that now. So negative 1.7 on the x-axis is about here, and I'm going to go down to negative 1.5, which is right in the center. So this black dot is the reflection point to negative 1.7 comma 1.5. So pause the video, complete the got it problems, and then play it back for some feedback. Now that you had some time to work on these problems, let's take a look at the correct answers for letter C and D. The correct answer for letter C is 2 comma 0.7. And the correct answer for letter D is negative 2 comma negative 3 1/4. So now that you had some time to complete this lesson, go ahead and self-rate yourself and let us know how you feel. If there's any part of the video that you do not understand, please watch it again, or please write down some questions so that we can discuss it in class tomorrow.